She's the Queen's only daughter. But why does Princess Anne often seem like the least discussed member of the royal family? Princess Anne is the royal who rewrote the rulebook. As the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, she could have lived a life defined by the grandeur and glamour of royalty. Instead, she carved out a path of grit, determination, and relentless dedication, shattering expectations at every turn. While others in the royal family have often dominated headlines with drama or polished personas, Anne has stood out by embracing a no-nonsense approach rooted in hard work and practicality. How does a princess who avoids the spotlight become one of the monarchy's most respected figures? And what drives her tireless commitment to duty in a world often fixated on privilege and prestige? Let's explore the details of these and many more. Born on August 15, 1950, at Clarence House, Princess Anne entered the world at a time when her mother was still a princess herself. Just 2 years later, her life would change dramatically when Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne, thrusting the family into the international spotlight. Anne's childhood, however, was anything but ordinary. She grew up during an era when royal duties took precedence over family life, and as her mother became increasingly occupied with the responsibilities of the crown, Anne and her siblings were often cared for by nannies and tutors. This distance between the Queen and her children has been a subject of speculation and criticism for decades. Many have described Queen Elizabeth as a distant mother, prioritizing the firm over familial connections. But Anne has always been quick to dismiss these claims, often defending her mother in interviews. In the 2012 documentary Queen and Country, Anne famously stated, "I simply don't believe that there is any evidence whatsoever to suggest that she wasn't caring. It just beggars belief." Her words reflect not only her loyalty to her mother but also her understanding of the unique pressures faced by a monarch. Anne's upbringing was shaped not only by the Queen's responsibilities, but also by the expectations placed on her as a royal. Unlike her elder brother Charles, Anne was not destined for the throne, which allowed her a certain degree of freedom. But this freedom came with its own challenges. From an early age, she demonstrated a strong sense of independence and a personality that could only be described as no-nonsense. While her siblings often appeared reserved, Anne's boldness set her apart. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, even if it meant breaking royal protocol or rubbing people the wrong way. Her relationship with her siblings, particularly Charles, has always been a subject of intrigue. As the eldest, Charles was groomed for kingship from birth, a role that often left him introspective and cautious. Anne, on the other hand, embraced a more pragmatic and forthright approach to life. Their contrasting personalities occasionally led to friction, but they also complemented each other in unexpected ways. Despite the differences, Anne has always maintained a close bond with her brothers, providing them with a steady presence amid the turbulence of royal life. It was clear from a young age that Anne was not content to sit idly by and let her royal title define her. By the time she was a teenager, she had already begun to carve out a unique path for herself, one that would set the tone for her entire life. Her early appearances at royal engagements revealed a young woman who was confident, poised, and unafraid to take on the responsibilities that came with her position. Yet, there was always an air of informality about her, a refreshing departure from the stiff formalities often associated with the monarchy. As she stepped into the public eye, Anne's no-nonsense persona began to take shape. She wasn't interested in being a media darling or winning over public opinion with carefully orchestrated charm. Instead, she chose authenticity, even if it meant being labeled as aloof or difficult. This reputation for bluntness earned her the nickname "Her Royal Rudeness" in the press, a moniker she wore with surprising indifference. To Anne, what mattered was getting the job done, not pandering to expectations. Her pragmatic approach to life and royal duties was undoubtedly influenced by her parents, particularly Prince Philip. Known for his forthright personality and unwavering dedication to duty, Philip instilled in Anne a sense of responsibility and a belief in the importance of hard work. These lessons would serve her well as she navigated the complexities of public life, often under intense scrutiny. Anne's relationship with the media has always been complex. While she understands the importance of the press in promoting the monarchy, she has never sought their approval. Early in her royal career, she faced criticism for her perceived brusqueness, particularly during interviews and public appearances. Yet over time, the public came to appreciate her candidness and unwavering commitment to her role. In many ways, Anne's authenticity set her apart from other royals, making her a relatable figure despite her elevated status. Her early experiences with public life also revealed a side of Anne that was fiercely independent and unafraid to challenge convention. While many royals adhered to strict protocols and traditions, Anne was known to question their relevance, often opting for a more practical approach. This attitude would come to define her later years, particularly in her work as a patron of over 300 charities and organizations. Even as a young woman, Anne's dedication to public service was evident. She took on her first official engagements with a seriousness that belied her age, demonstrating a deep understanding of the responsibilities that came with her title. Yet she never allowed these duties to overshadow her individuality. Anne was and continues to be a royal who marches to the beat of her own drum, unafraid to carve out a unique identity within the constraints of the monarchy. By the time she reached her 20s, Anne was already establishing herself as a force to be reckoned with. Her early life had prepared her well for the challenges ahead, but it was clear that she was determined to go beyond the expectations placed upon her as the Queen's daughter. With her characteristic determination and an unwavering sense of purpose, Anne began to lay the groundwork for what would become one of the most impressive legacies within the royal family. As Princess Anne entered adulthood, her resolve to carve out a distinctive role within the royal family only deepened. Her actions, demeanor, and choices consistently set her apart from her royal peers, showcasing a personality that embraced pragmatism over pomp. This mindset became increasingly evident in her approach to royal duties, public engagements, and notably, her refusal to shy away from hard work. While others in the family often dominated headlines with their personal lives, Anne's contributions were largely defined by dedication and action. One of the most defining moments in Anne's life came in 1970, when she became a working royal at the age of 18. Unlike many young adults her age who were still exploring their paths, Anne's focus was clear from the outset. Her commitment to public service began with her involvement in Save the Children, a charity she would eventually lead as president. Her work with the organization was not limited to ceremonial duties. She became deeply involved in its operations, traveling extensively to raise awareness and funds for the cause. This hands-on approach marked a departure from the traditional image of a royal patron as a figurehead and set a precedent for her future work. Anne's dedication to Save the Children exemplified her broader attitude toward charity. While her royal peers often embraced causes that aligned with their personal interests or public appeal, Anne prioritized impact over recognition. This commitment earned her widespread respect within charitable circles, even as it went relatively unnoticed by the media at the time. Her pragmatic approach to charity work was a reflection of her broader philosophy. It wasn't about being seen to care, but about actually making a difference. This no-nonsense attitude extended to Anne's public persona as well. By the 1970s, her reputation as her royal rudeness was firmly established. Journalists frequently criticized her for her curt responses and lack of warmth during interviews, often painting her as aloof and unapproachable. Yet Anne seemed largely unfazed by these critiques, focusing instead on the tasks at hand. Over time, her bluntness became one of her defining traits, endearing her to those who valued authenticity over performative charm. For Anne, being straightforward wasn't just a personality trait, it was a way of cutting through the noise and getting things done. Her commitment to authenticity and hard work didn't come at the expense of her individuality. In fact, Anne often used her position to challenge the expectations placed on her as a royal. One of the most notable examples of this was her decision to compete as an equestrian at the highest levels of the sport. While other royals might have chosen safer, more predictable hobbies, Anne pursued her passion for horses with an intensity that matched her approach to royal duties. Her love for equestrian sports began in childhood, but it was during her teenage years that she began competing seriously. Anne's equestrian career reached its peak in 1976 when she became the first British royal to compete in the Olympics. Representing Great Britain in the three-day eventing discipline, Anne rode her mother's horse, Goodwill, in what would become one of the most memorable chapters of her life. The competition was not without its challenges. During the cross-country phase, Anne suffered a fall that resulted in a concussion. Remarkably, she remounted her horse and completed the course, a testament to her resilience and determination. Anne later admitted that she had no memory of finishing the event, but her performance left an indelible mark on the public's perception of her as a royal who wasn't afraid to take risks and push boundaries. The Olympic experience highlighted not only Anne's personal strength, but also her ability to balance her royal responsibilities with her individual pursuits. While the media initially focused on the novelty of a royal competing in the Olympics, Anne's skill and dedication soon became the focal point. She wasn't just there to represent the monarchy, she was there to compete on equal footing with the world's best athletes. This approach mirrored her attitude toward all aspects of her life, where she sought to prove her worth through action rather than privilege. Anne's equestrian achievements also underscored her deep connection to her family's long-standing love for horses. Her father, Prince Philip, was an accomplished polo player, and her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, bred and raced horses. Anne's siblings, too, shared this passion, but Anne took it to a professional level, becoming a trailblazer for royals in the world of competitive sports. Her legacy as an equestrian remains a point of pride for the royal family, influencing future generations, including her daughter Zara Tindall, who followed in her mother's footsteps by becoming an Olympic medalist in eventing. Despite the demands of her equestrian career, Anne never wavered in her commitment to her royal duties. She seamlessly transitioned between the world of competitive sports and the responsibilities of being a working royal, embodying a work ethic that would come to define her public life. This dual commitment often left little room for personal indulgences, a reality Anne embraced without complaint. For her, the privilege of being a royal came with an obligation to serve, a principle instilled in her by her parents and reinforced through her own experiences. As the 1970s progressed, Anne's life became increasingly complex, balancing her growing workload with the challenges of personal relationships. Her marriage to Captain Mark Phillips in 1973 was a grand affair, attracting global attention as the first royal wedding of the modern television era. Despite the public spectacle, Anne and Mark's relationship was grounded in shared interests, particularly their mutual love for horses. Their union seemed to reflect Anne's pragmatic approach to life, prioritizing compatibility and shared values over romantic idealism. However, the marriage was not without its challenges. As Anne's royal duties and equestrian commitments grew, so too did the pressures on their relationship. Mark, a former Olympic equestrian himself, initially seemed well-suited to Anne's dynamic lifestyle, but their differing personalities and ambitions eventually led to tensions. The couple's struggles became increasingly apparent over the years, culminating in their divorce in 1992. Despite the dissolution of their marriage, Anne and Mark remained committed to co-parenting their two children, Zara and Peter, ensuring that their personal difficulties did not overshadow their roles as parents. Anne's ability to navigate the complexities of her personal and professional life without losing sight of her responsibilities speaks to her resilience and character. She consistently prioritized duty over personal gain, a trait that endeared her to those who worked alongside her in her various roles. Whether representing the monarchy on official visits, championing charitable causes, or competing on the global stage, Anne approached every challenge with the same unwavering determination that had defined her life from the beginning. As the 1980s unfolded, Princess Anne's life became a balancing act between public service, personal challenges, and maintaining her unique identity within the royal family. Her reputation as one of the most hard-working royals solidified during this period, with a relentless schedule of engagements that left little time for indulgence. Yet this was also a decade marked by personal transitions, moments of controversy, and the ever-present scrutiny of the public eye. One of the more curious episodes of this era involved Anne's relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, a connection that would later intertwine with one of the most talked-about royal romances of all time, that of Prince Charles and Camilla. Anne and Parker Bowles were briefly romantically linked in the early 1970s before he married Camilla. The media, always eager for royal intrigue, speculated about Anne's continued friendship with Parker Bowles even after their romantic relationship ended. Biographers have often sought to unpack this narrative, pointing out that Anne's relationship with Parker Bowles never overlapped with Charles and Camilla's early romance, despite dramatic portrayals in popular media, such as The Crown. Anne's friendship with Parker Bowles endured, with him even serving as godfather to her daughter Zara. For Anne, the speculation seemed to roll off her back. She approached the whispers with the same no-nonsense attitude she applied to other aspects of her life. For her, relationships were private matters, not subjects for public dissection. While the media obsessed over royal relationships, Anne was busy proving her worth in more significant ways. By the mid-1980s, her involvement in charitable work had reached extraordinary levels. She had become president of Save the Children in 1970, but her contributions went far beyond the ceremonial. Anne traveled extensively to visit projects supported by the organization, often in remote or impoverished regions. Unlike many public figures who might have seen such visits as photo opportunities, Anne viewed them as integral to understanding the issues at hand. Her ability to connect with people on the ground, regardless of their circumstances, reflected her genuine commitment to making a difference. Her work with Save the Children was just one part of a much larger portfolio of charitable activities. Anne's engagement with over 300 organizations placed her among the busiest royals, and her efforts were particularly focused on causes that aligned with her practical mindset. From organizations supporting healthcare and education to initiatives promoting environmental sustainability, Anne's choices reflected her desire to contribute meaningfully, rather than simply lending her name to a cause. Her work ethic became legendary, earning her admiration even from those who were often critical of the monarchy. This reputation for hard work, however, did not shield Anne from moments of controversy. In 1987, she became the first royal to be convicted of a criminal offense, albeit for a relatively minor incident. Anne was fined for speeding, an infraction that, while not particularly scandalous, fed into the media's narrative of her as a rule breaker. It wasn't the first time Anne had been caught exceeding the speed limit, and it wouldn't be the last. Her response to the fine was characteristically blunt. She paid the penalty without protest and moved on, seemingly unfazed by the headlines. These speeding incidents became part of the larger tapestry of Anne's public persona. They humanized her in the eyes of the public, showing that even a princess would succumb to everyday frustrations like being late for an engagement. Yet, they also reinforced her image as a royal who wasn't particularly concerned with maintaining a pristine or polished image. Anne's focus remained on her work and her responsibilities, leaving little room for worrying about how she was perceived. The late 1980s also saw Anne assume the title of Princess Royal, a position reserved for the eldest daughter of the sovereign. While the title was purely honorary, its conferral marked a recognition of Anne's contributions to the royal family and her embodiment of its values. By this time, Anne had already established herself as a figure of reliability and dedication, traits that set her apart from the more headline-grabbing antics of other royals. This period of her life also highlighted her resilience in the face of personal challenges. Anne's marriage to Captain Mark Phillips, which had once seemed a solid partnership rooted in shared interests, began to show signs of strain. Their differing personalities and ambitions, coupled with the pressures of public life, led to their eventual separation in 1989 and divorce in 1992. Despite these difficulties, Anne remained steadfast in her role as a mother, ensuring that her children were shielded as much as possible from the fallout. Her pragmatic approach to parenting, including her decision not to give Zara and Peter royal titles, reflected her desire to provide them with a more grounded upbringing. Anne's ability to compartmentalize her personal and public lives was perhaps one of her greatest strengths. While her marriage might have faltered, her commitment to her royal duties never wavered. By the end of the decade, Anne's reputation as one of the hardest-working members of the royal family was firmly entrenched. She had not only embraced her role, but had redefined it, proving that being a royal was about more than ceremonies and appearances. For Anne, it was about action, impact, and a tireless dedication to service. As the 1990s approached, Anne's life entered a new phase, one that would see her balancing the challenges of a modernizing monarchy with her unwavering commitment to tradition. Her resilience, forged through decades of public service and personal trials, would become the foundation for her enduring legacy as a royal who exemplified duty and determination. The 1990s marked a transformative period for the royal family, and Princess Anne was no exception. This decade brought a series of personal challenges, moments of reinvention, and an unwavering commitment to her responsibilities. For Anne, It was a time to further solidify her role as one of the monarchy's most dedicated and resilient figures, even as the institution faced mounting scrutiny from the public and the press. Following her divorce from Captain Mark Phillips in 1992, Anne wasted little time in rebuilding her personal life. Later that year, she married Commander Timothy Lawrence, a naval officer and equerry to Queen Elizabeth II. Their relationship had long been a subject of speculation, and their marriage was a quiet but significant step for Anne. Unlike her first wedding, which had been a grand public affair, her marriage to Lawrence was a private ceremony held in Scotland, away from the prying eyes of the media. This low-key approach reflected Anne's desire for privacy and her practical attitude toward her personal life. For Anne, the focus was on companionship and stability, rather than public spectacle. Her marriage to Lawrence proved to be a source of support and steadiness, complementing Anne's relentless dedication to her royal duties. Together, they maintained a relatively low profile, with Lawrence often accompanying Anne on engagements, but staying out of the spotlight. Their partnership, built on mutual respect and shared values, offered a stark contrast to the more turbulent relationships that often captured headlines within the royal family. It was a quiet testament to Anne's ability to navigate her personal and professional lives with a sense of balance and pragmatism. Even as her personal life settled into a new rhythm, Anne's workload showed no signs of slowing. By the mid-1990s, she had firmly established herself as the hardest-working member of the royal family, consistently completing more engagements than any of her relatives. Her schedule was a testament to her tireless work ethic and her belief in the importance of service. From attending state functions and charity events to visiting schools, hospitals, and disaster-stricken areas, Anne approached every engagement with the same level of dedication and focus. One of Anne's most significant contributions during this period was her ongoing work with Save the Children. As the organization's president, she continued to champion its efforts, traveling to remote regions and advocating for the rights of children in need. Her hands-on approach set her apart from other royal patrons, as she often went beyond ceremonial duties to engage directly with the communities she aimed to help. Anne's work with Save the Children not only highlighted her commitment to making a tangible impact, but also underscored her belief in the power of grassroots efforts to drive change. This decade also brought an increased focus on Anne's role in representing the monarchy abroad. As an ambassador for British interests, she undertook numerous overseas tours, meeting with world leaders, dignitaries, and local communities. These visits were not mere formalities. They were opportunities for Anne to strengthen diplomatic ties, promote British culture, and support international causes. Her ability to navigate these responsibilities with professionalism and poise made her a valuable asset to the royal family and solidified her reputation as a trusted representative of the crown. Anne's dedication to her work often placed her in stark contrast to the challenges facing the royal family as a whole during the 1990s. The decade was marked by a series of scandals and controversies, from the divorces of Prince Charles and Prince Andrew to the tragic death of Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997. The monarchy faced unprecedented criticism, with many questioning its relevance in a rapidly changing world. Amid this turmoil, Anne's steady presence and tireless efforts provided a sense of continuity and stability. While others in the family grappled with public scrutiny, Anne remained focused on her duties, demonstrating a level of resilience and determination that earned her widespread respect. Her ability to maintain a strong sense of purpose during this tumultuous time was rooted in her pragmatic outlook on life. Anne rarely engaged in public discussions about the monarchy's challenges, choosing instead to let her actions speak for themselves. She understood the value of hard work and consistency, particularly during periods of uncertainty, and she used these principles to guide her approach to royal duties. For Anne, the best way to address criticism was not through words, but through a steadfast commitment to service. This commitment extended to her role as a mother, where Anne's practical nature once again shone through. Her children, Zara and Peter, were growing into adulthood during this period, and Anne took great care to ensure they were prepared for life outside the royal bubble. Her decision not to grant them royal titles had allowed them a degree of freedom and normalcy that many of their cousins lacked. Zara, in particular, followed in her mother's footsteps by pursuing a career in equestrian sports, becoming an Olympic medalist in eventing. Anne's influence was evident in Zara's approach to her career, which mirrored her mother's resilience and determination. While Anne's parenting decisions often went against tradition, they reflected her belief in the importance of individuality and self-reliance. She understood that the pressures of royal life could be overwhelming, and sought to equip her children with the tools to navigate the world on their terms. This approach earned Anne admiration from many who saw her as a modernizing force within the royal family, even as she remained deeply committed to its traditions. By the end of the 1990s, Anne's reputation as a hardworking, dedicated, and pragmatic royal was firmly established. She had weathered personal and public challenges with grace, emerging as a figure of stability and strength within the royal family. Her ability to adapt to changing circumstances while staying true to her values made her an enduring symbol of the monarchy's resilience. As the new millennium approached, Anne showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, she seemed even more determined to continue her work and uphold the values that had defined her life. The challenges of the 1990s had tested her resolve, but they had also reaffirmed her belief in the importance of duty and service. For Anne, there was no question that her role within the royal family was not just a privilege, but a responsibility, one that she would continue to embrace with the same unwavering dedication that had guided her from the very beginning. As the 21st century began, Princess Anne's reputation as a steadfast and tireless royal continued to grow. While much of the royal family underwent significant changes in the new millennium, Anne remained a consistent presence, embodying the values of duty, tradition, and hard work. Her role within the monarchy evolved as she took on even greater responsibilities, proving once again why she was considered one of its most reliable members. The early 2000s saw Anne further cement her role as the busiest member of the royal family. Year after year, she consistently undertook more public engagements than any of her relatives. In 2003 alone, Anne carried out over 500 official engagements, ranging from charity events to diplomatic missions. This level of dedication was unmatched, and it became a hallmark of her identity as a royal. For Anne, these engagements were not just obligations but opportunities to make a meaningful impact, whether by raising awareness for important causes or fostering goodwill on behalf of the monarchy. Her work ethic extended to her involvement in over 300 charities and organizations, many of which she actively supported rather than serving as a figurehead. Anne's approach to charity work was grounded in practicality and a deep understanding of the issues at hand. She often made unpublicized visits to projects and programs, preferring to focus on results rather than publicity. This hands-on involvement earned her immense respect, both within the charitable sector and among those who benefited from her efforts. One of Anne's most enduring contributions during this period was her advocacy for education and healthcare. She worked tirelessly to promote initiatives that provided resources and support to underserved communities, particularly in rural areas. Her travels took her across the United Kingdom and abroad, where she met with educators, healthcare professionals, and community leaders to discuss ways to improve access to essential services. Anne's ability to connect with people from all walks of life, combined with her unwavering commitment to service, made her an effective advocate for change. At the same time, Anne's role within the royal family evolved in response to the changing dynamics of the monarchy. As her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, entered the later years of her reign, Anne stepped up to take on additional responsibilities. She became a trusted advisor to the Queen and played a key role in supporting the younger generation of royals. Her experience and wisdom were invaluable, particularly as the family navigated the challenges of modernizing while maintaining its traditions. Anne's influence on the younger royals was particularly evident in her interactions with Prince William and Prince Harry. As their aunt, Anne offered a unique perspective on balancing royal duties with personal aspirations. While she never sought to impose her views, her actions served as a powerful example of what it meant to dedicate oneself to service. Her relationship with William and Harry reflected her ability to bridge generational divides within the family, fostering a sense of unity and continuity. As Anne's public and private roles expanded, so too did her legacy as a mother. By the 2000s, her children, Zara and Peter, had firmly established themselves as independent individuals with successful careers. Zara's accomplishments in equestrian sports, including her silver medal at the 2012 London Olympics, were a source of pride for Anne, who had instilled in her daughter the same values of discipline and determination that had guided her own life. Meanwhile, Peter pursued a career in business, choosing a path outside the royal spotlight. Anne's decision to forego royal titles for her children allowed them the freedom to forge their own identities, a choice that was widely admired. Anne's personal achievements during this period were matched by her ability to adapt to the evolving expectations of the public. The monarchy faced increasing calls for transparency and modernization, and Anne's pragmatic approach to her role made her a valuable asset in navigating these changes. While some royals struggled with the pressures of public life, Anne's no-nonsense attitude and focus on her duties remained unchanged. Her consistency and reliability provided a counterbalance to the more headline-grabbing aspects of royal life, earning her widespread respect from both the public and her peers. One of the defining moments of Anne's later years came in 2016 when she celebrated her 40th year as president of Save the Children. The milestone was a testament to her enduring commitment to the organization and its mission. Over the decades, Anne had helped transform Save the Children into a global force for change, leveraging her platform to amplify its impact. Her dedication to the charity exemplified her broader philosophy of service, focusing on meaningful contributions rather than seeking personal recognition. Anne's contributions were not limited to her work within the royal family or her charitable endeavors. She also played a key role in representing Britain on the international stage, undertaking numerous overseas tours and engagements. Her ability to navigate cultural differences and connect with diverse audiences made her an effective ambassador for British interests, strengthening the monarchy's global presence. Whether meeting with world leaders or engaging with local communities, Anne approached each interaction with professionalism and humility, earning respect wherever she went. As the years progressed, Anne's tireless dedication to her role showed no signs of waning. Even as she entered her 70s, she continued to outpace her younger relatives in terms of engagements and responsibilities. Her resilience and determination became defining characteristics of her legacy, inspiring admiration from across the spectrum of public opinion. For Anne, being a royal was not about privilege or prestige. It was about action, service, and a commitment to making a difference. By the time the 2020s arrived, Anne had firmly established herself as a cornerstone of the modern monarchy. Her contributions spanned decades, encompassing everything from groundbreaking achievements in equestrian sports to transformative charity work and a steadfast dedication to royal duties. Yet despite her many accomplishments, Anne remained characteristically modest, focused not on accolades but on the work itself. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.